you doing today, sir?
Very well, thank you. Very well.
First, I'm going to start by saying on record how much I loved your movie.
Thank you.
Really hit me. And it was funny, the person sitting next to me yesterday in the theater, and I don't mean to put myself in the interview, viewed the movie, and it really hit him about love. How it was filled with love, and he wanted to have love in his life. And it hit me because I'm always thinking about living in two different places and what my life would be with each place and the pros and cons. So it's interesting that your film has affected, there's so much going on. What was it like for you last night after the premiere? Because you seemed a little nervous before the screening, about 1,000 people about to watch your movie.
Yeah, you could say that. It was an evening of jangled nerves, and I've never been in Sundance before, with or without a film, as it were. So to premiere the film last night, and it was the first audience that had seen the film, was kind of terrifying, and I had no idea whether the film would reach that audience or not, and whether it would move them, and whether they find it funny. So it seemed to do all those things, and so it was a big celebration afterwards.
Yeah, I was going to say, what is it like after a movie plays like that, and then everyone's clapping, you can tell it hit a home run in the room. What's the euphoria? Whatever that word is.
Euphoria?
Yeah, that's it.
I don't know. I mean, whether I suffer from anhedonia or whatever it's called, where you don't allow pleasure in, but you look at it, you go, oh my God, this is not quite real. You go on the stage and people start getting to their feet and the actors are coming on, and it's all very heightened, and I'm not used to it, and so it's a bit tricky to program and process.
Yeah,
it's fabulous, though. Don't get me wrong. I'd much rather this than the stuff I'm used to. So yeah.
Talk a little bit about the genesis of the project for you. Was it a project that you went after? Just talk about the development.
I read it partly for pleasure and partly because I knew it was going into development about 4 years ago, and then it went to different ways. I never met on it, but so there was a bit of prehistory on the project before it was sent to me, and I got a call almost literally out of the blue one day saying, would you like to read the script for Brooklyn? And I read it and was bowled over by Nick Hornby's screenplay, and he had just sort of captured the heart of the novel and yet given it a cinematic shape in a way that was rather wonderful. So that was it. I mean, from the second I read it, I knew I had to make the film, and we went on the process of beginning to cast it. Found Saoirse. Immediately she was my first thought for Eilis, and then Domhnall Gleeson, and then Emory Cohen, and then Jim Broadbent, Julie Walters, and started casting all the other small parts around it. So it wasn't one which was a long, painful development. I mean, from when I became attached to it, it was about, I'd say, maybe 15 months before we were shooting, which isn't so bad.
How long was your first cut versus the final final release?
Gosh, the first cut was, I would say, only about 8, maybe 9 minutes longer than its current length. So it's not a massive amount of material. I mean, and actually, it wasn't, the editing was never about chopping whole sections out. It really was about distilling everything down. So it just kind of seemed to shed time rather effortlessly as we went on and tighten stuff up rather than completely restructuring things.
Did you show it to friends and family or any test screenings, and then that impact the final cut of the film?
Yes, we did 2 sort of informal test screenings of our own, where we hauled together a loose cross-section of an audience in London to just throw it up on a screen and see what we had and see what was working. And it was thrilling because the humour played and the emotion played really well, and you could feel that there was a few questions about a few moments, and we worked very hard to sort of adjust those. But and the second one played even better, so it just felt like we were going in the right direction, and then finalized it.
When did you find out you were getting into Sundance, and how long have you been sitting on the information?
I was in Sydney before. It was at the end of November. I was in Sydney casting a play that I'm going to direct there next July, and I got an email overnight from our producer Finola saying, "Congratulations, Sundance have let us in, but you can't breathe a word to anyone."
Right.
So I was in Sydney, so I didn't have anybody to tell anyway, so it was fine. So
you called someone though.
Yes, I called my wife. I said,
right, exactly.
"Guess what?" And she shrieked. So, but I said, "But you can't tell anyone either."
Right.
So it was kept secret for, gosh, I don't know. I think we had to sit on it for about 2.5 weeks, I think, before it was the launch. Before, anyway.
Sure. No.
It was torture.
I can't even imagine.
Torture.
I really can't imagine.
And then there was all these people who were upset because they were saying, you never told me. You were in, anyway, it's a lose-lose situation.
Right.
That one.
I think you'll take it. You'll be okay with that. How long ago did you finish the film? Was it one of these things where you were racing to the finish line?
Not racing, no, because post expanded a little bit, as it always does, or often does, by about 2.5 months. So we finished the final mix the week before Christmas.
Oh, okay, that's not bad.
Not bad, no, it was great, and it was perfect time for us to do that. And then took Christmas break, and I looked at the completely finished DCP first week of January, and we shipped it off here. So.
I never say this, but as you give more answers, I think I want to have your mic come closer to you.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of people in here just seem to be talking. Jumping into filming on location, you obviously film on location, you could do some soundstage work, but what was it like in terms of, was it a lot of, talk a little bit about the actual making of the film.
Right, so we shot for 3 weeks in Ireland, mostly in Enniscorthy, which is the town where the novel is set, and the town where the novelist, Colm Tóibín, in fact on the street that he grew up in, and not for sentimental reasons. It was actually because the street was the one street that we found which, with relatively little cosmetic changes, could be made to look like a street in the 50s. And actually trying to do Ireland from the 1950s in 2014 was every bit as big a challenge as trying to do Brooklyn 1950s in Montreal, which is where we had to shoot that stuff. So Montreal was great with us. I mean, in terms of the architecture there and the kind of buildings we found, the interiors, everything, it gave us so much. And then we were able to get into New York for 2 days shooting. We had 1 day on street in Brooklyn where we did all the exterior brownstone work, and we had 1 day at Coney Island because nowhere doubles for Coney Island. So and that was it. So it was difficult because we didn't have a core crew with us when we had a small number of people who came with us to all those locations. We only had one actor, Saoirse, who came to all those locations. So the film, in a weird way, she went through the journey of Eilis, of leaving everybody behind in Ireland and then picking up a whole new set of people to surround yourself with in Montreal, and some of them came to New York. And I've never shot in 2 countries before. I've only ever shot in one place where you develop a shorthand, and it's difficult losing a lot of crew and then finding another crew, and it takes a few days to find a different rhythm. So it was definitely challenging. But I had a great DP and a great designer and a great cast.
I hate asking this generic question. However, everyone watching this will have not seen the movie yet. Like maybe 5 people will watch this and have seen it. So could you just give people like a log line, what it's about, what you want people to know without... Because I don't know how much I'm supposed to say.
I know, there are spoilers that you don't want to give away from the film, but basically it tells the story of a young woman, Eilis, played by Saoirse Ronan, who emigrates to Brooklyn from small town in Ireland in the 50s. And when she settles in, she meets a young boy, falls in love, and then has to return to Ireland because of a personal tragedy. And then home has a very particular pull on her, which she's very shocked by and doesn't quite make sense to her. And the second man turns up in her life, and then she's forced to make a choice, which is an almost impossible choice, between 2 men and between 2 countries, and in a way between 2 versions of herself. And for me, what it's about, as it were, underneath it, is about the state of exile, which is that once you emigrate from your country, you're no longer at home in that country when you go back to it, but nor are you at home in the country you have chosen as your new homeland. You're actually a member of a third race, which is you're in exile, and it's sort of how you deal with that. And it's also a portrait of a young woman coming into her own power, and it's very moving, very affecting, and very funny, which is the surprising thing.
That's the thing I want to sort of mention and make sure people realize is I couldn't believe how funny the movie was. There's some amazing dining room scenes. There's an 8-year-old kid or something that just brings the house down. Talk about the humor in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, you know, in the novel, Cullum's humour is wonderfully wry, and his prose has got a sort of a delicious irony to it. And Nick Hornby did that. You know, there's a great line from Billy Wilder that in filmmaking you have to make all your subtleties obvious, and Nick Hornby did that in the screenplay. And then, of course, when you cast actors like Jim Broadbent and Julie Walters and some great lesser-known Irish actresses who just spotted the potential for those scenes, and while we set the tone that it was always had to be, you know, real and completely truthful, those scenes play like gangbusters. I mean, they're just hysterically funny, and it was interesting when we were putting it together. A lot of the financiers didn't see the humour in it; they just couldn't see it. They were like, "It's a bit dull," and you know, we get it. And those, you know, scenes around the boarding house, it's like nothing really happens in them. You know, and fair enough. You know, some people are better readers of scripts than others, but they are hysterically funny, and of course, it's sort of a very particularly Irish mix of extreme humour and then profound sadness a minute later. So it's a good mix.
Yeah, I'm very curious about what the reaction was from the people who financed it when they finally saw the finished film. They have to be happy.
Yeah, they're delighted.
Yeah,
they're delighted.
Is it one of those things where after you do this play, you're like, I have these other ideas?
You mean other ideas, new ideas, or on this?
Projects that you want to do.
Yeah.
See what I just did?
Yeah, there always are, and you know the truth is that I get drawn to tricky material, which tends to not be easily pigeonholed. So it's great that something like this, which is in itself a very difficult film to pigeonhole, is effortlessly working with audiences here. I mean, we've had 2 great screenings now, and that's, you know, long.
This morning?
Yeah, and it was the exact same again. I mean, it was a standing ovation at the end, and it was, you know, it was so many, and it was more of a public screening. You know, last night was a bit more of an industry screening, you know. So a lot of the people at the question and answer at the end didn't even seem to want to ask questions. They just wanted to say that was great. It reminded me of my grandmother, reminded me of my father, my mother. So they were connecting into that story and of immigration and of sort of genealogy in a way which was really heartening.
Well, one of the things that, I tweeted about it last night, not that means anything, but like I said, one of the strengths is that it's a 1950s story, but it takes place in the 50s, but the story is timeless.
Yes.
You know, and so if you could sort of talk about that as well.
I agree. I think that there's 2 things about it. One is, you know, as a character, she is free of a lot of the vestiges of a young woman from a film or a story set in 1950s Ireland. She doesn't suffer Catholic guilt. She doesn't get punished for having sex outside of marriage. She's actually comes into her power very well and sort of takes down the small town baddie, as it were, in that big, you know, shootout scene at the end, as it were. You know, it's like a Western almost. But I think you're right, that underneath it there is a story which is without being pretentious, you could call it, it has a sort of a mythic structure underneath it, which is current to a lot of myths or fairy tales, which is of a young hero usually having to leave his or her land because the land is blighted, to go to another country to find the boon or the elixir of life or the golden fleece, whatever it is, win it, secure it, and then bring it back home so that the kingdom can be healed, you know? And that is the structure of the story. It is about going away, finding magic, and when she comes back home, of course, it's like one of the Kennedys returning home. She suddenly has been transformed very gently and sort of subtly in America into somebody who's rather glamorous and very confident in herself. And then the country sort of doesn't quite know what to do with her. So she has to decide what she wants to do with the country, and leave it is ultimately what she decides to do. You know? So I think that's true. It's very timeless.
If you did not have a lead actor that could do this performance, the movie would not work.
I agree.
Her work in this movie is so exceptional. The way
Stunning.
It really is. It's crazy good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
How much did you work with her on the performance? How much was that her figuring it out on her own? You know what I mean?
I tell you, well, there's 2 things. I mean, I work very closely with all actors because coming from a theatre background, directing actors is the sort of lifeblood of making films for me. It's what I love doing, and it's what excites me on set. So from take to take, it is always about nuance and about pulling more truth out of something. Now, that said, with this role, from the point that I first met Saoirse about this role to the point that we began shooting it, which was a year, a lot of life happened to Saoirse in that time, including leaving home and moving to London and being in a flat on her own, and suddenly actually being surprised that the exact wrench and split that came into Eilis's heart and soul from leaving home happened Saoirse. And I think that's what's surprising, is that actually, you know, she's not a young girl who has never seen outside of her own small town in Ireland in the 50s. She's worldly wise. So it has a deeper pull, that thing of leaving home and leaving your own country. And she felt that more than any role she's ever played, she was closer to that character's dilemma and that character's emotional situation day by day when she was working. So we did a lot of rehearsals. We did a week's rehearsals before we began shooting in extreme detail, going through everything, which was really just more about mapping out the emotional territory, because you never, especially with territory which is as emotional as this, you never want to release that emotion in rehearsals, because you only want to do it on set when the camera's rolling. So you would go so far and stop short. But I can't emphasize enough that this is a case of the absolute right actor meeting the right part at the right time in their life. I mean, it's that stuff you can't control, and you know, we just got spectacularly lucky.
Yeah, I was going to say, all the performances across the board are just so...
It's amazing cast. I mean, there isn't a weak link, and I'm delighted by all of that. And she's got stellar support everywhere, and all of them are so truthful and heartbreaking and funny, and you know, yeah, it's great. I was just going to say, but it's exceptional what she's doing in the middle of it. It's quite something.
It's next level.
Yeah.
My last question for you: I'm always looking to see who financed the movie. Is it already sold in certain territories? Is it all up for sale? What can you tease people about when? You know?
It's for sale here in the US, and there's a whole slew of world rights available. But the UK rights have gone. Canadian rights have gone. And I think there are a couple of European countries have gone. So not that much is the answer, but we do have an English distributor. Yeah.
Will that distribution be like? Do they have to map it out with the rest of the world? You know what I mean? It
depends on who we go with. I mean, you know, it depends, and some of the people who would show interest in a film like this tend to, they take the world rights and they take everything, and others will just buy US domestic. And if you get the right distributor, that means that the world, you know, other distributors around the world go, okay, they're a stamp of approval, and they'll come in territories where it might find itself, where it would be a hard film to play. And there are definitely some territories where this film will be harder to sell than in others, you know.
Sure. I will say that I would be utterly shocked if you do not land someone to put this movie out in America. Just shocked.
I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident. I'm basically figuring out what kind of what's going on behind the scenes right now, because
I can't tell you.
But no, you know what's funny?
But stuff's going down.
What I was going to say is, I'm not the guy or the site that breaks who's distributing. All that my readers care about and what we care about is the movie's going to come out and it gets a proper home with someone that's going to support it. Yes. That's really it.
It will. I think we can be confident of that.
I like the way you're talking, especially after the reaction to both screenings. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
I seriously loved your movie. Tremendous.
That's so great. Thank you so much. It's thrilling.